Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Stuff, and today we're going to be talking all about what happened to me at Adepticon 2023. I had an absolutely epic time, and I cannot wait to talk about it. So what we're going to be doing in this video is talking about the games that I interacted with, the things that I saw, with the events that I partook in. This is basically going to be a one big Adepticon 2023 recap. Comes a little late because I was at Adepticon for a whole week and then got the con crud, and I'm just now getting my voice back, so I can't wait to talk about it. With all that said, let's go to the downward cam and check it all out. Okay, just to be clear, this is in no particular order, and none of these things were really given to me. I'll make a note. There's one exception, but I'll make a note of that one. So first off, things that I'm excited about. I have here the Chieftain model from Conquest. This is for the Witchborn, the Orcs. I like him. I'm going to do a dedicated video about why I think he's a great character here pretty soon for Conquest players, because he has a special role that I think is awesome. The next thing I wanted to talk about was some hardware that I came back with. We got this bad boy, Adepticon Win-A-Medal. What did Doug win? It doesn't seem like he participated in a whole lot. Witchborn the Pit. Now, I talked about Witchborn on my channel here very recently as sort of a hybrid between skirmish war games and role-playing games, like tabletop D&D style role-playing. Essentially, you build your warband, equip them, and then there's a lot of stats to calculate. We had pre-generated ones, so that was cool. You just kind of picture it. And then you essentially use prompts by an app that acts as a digital GM. Okay, and it's very cool. There's a great system involved for the main game. But this is specifically the Pit. If you are unfamiliar, the Pit is, imagine between adventures you meet up at the bar and hilarity ensues. It's supposed to be you use the same game mechanics, but it's meant to be much more lighthearted. And so basically last man standing. We each had, I think, 4 fighters in our various warbands, if I'm not mistaken. I believe I had 4. And hilarity ensues because stuff happens, like my ogre from my orc warband fell in love with a lady who took him out, and he was having sex all night, but that was a penalty to me because that meant he's not on the table anymore. He's off smexying with somebody. So I lost a guy, but then, before things got crazy, I was hired by a little goblin dude to work for him, and so then I gained a guy because now he's my employer who has to walk around with me and make sure I'm alive. And so all these crazy things happen. I had an orc get totally buck naked and try to start a fist fight, and it was cool. A lot of funny things happened, but at the end of the night, I ended up being the sole survivor of the Pit. So I'm very excited. Thank you so much. I believe it's Corey who ran that as kind of our DM. He walked us through the dice and the modifications and all that kind of stuff, so I really do appreciate it. That was a highlight of my trip for sure. The next thing I wanted to talk about was a game that I have been interested in for some time. This is Yafsiga. If you're not familiar with it, it is a miniatures agnostic game produced by Black Site Studios. They make all kinds of indie games for miniatures for every aesthetic under the sun. Basically, they have horror, like a survival horror game, Don't Look Back, feudal Japan, space fighting like Necromunda style, lunar, which is, think American and Russian cosmonauts in the 60s or whatever shooting each other in space. It's fun. This is Yafsiga. It is their skirmish version, and think of it as the movie Annihilation with, I think it's Jennifer Gardner. I could be wrong about that, but the movie Annihilation, but in a fantasy setting rather than the US Marines or whatever going. So the longer you stay in what they call the Bloom, which is a weird paranormal, actually that's a great picture of it, tilted seal, hopefully the white balance doesn't show, but you can see there's kind of a bubble over this entire landmass. There's a continent called, a nation called Yafseo, and then the Bloom opened up and wrecked it. So people are trying to go into the city to get lost treasures and stuff like that, and this is, I'm going to say, quite possibly the most beautiful rules book I have ever seen created under the sky. It is a very simple diceless miniatures game. My wife looked at the cover and the art was like, I need to play this. So we got a whole bunch of miniatures on Etsy, and we're going to make some cool stuff for her. We've got flying cats coming in and cute little witches and stuff like that. I'll talk more about this in a dedicated review because it is highly intriguing, but essentially it uses cards, like a deck of cards rather than dice and stuff like that. So very cool things to come from Yafsiga. I also got to meet Corey Sullivan, and I feel like such a moron. It's we hung out, right? He gave me the rundown of the game. I loved it. I was like, you made a sale. I introduced myself. I bought the book because he did such a great job of walking me through it and getting my interest, and then I completely forgot to just open it right there and have him sign it. I was like, I am such a moron. I wish I had Corey Sullivan's signature there. Next little treat to show off is this guy. You see, I had I did a little bit of help with the Conquest event that was going on. It's not their first Adepticon, but it was their first, I'm gonna say, official GT level of thing, and we're gonna talk about that more in a dedicated video. There were some growing pains, but I helped them out in the last minute by coming up with a tournament pack. I basically used my AOS Youngbloods one, stripped out all the Age of Sigmar information, threw in the Conquest stuff with a rough schedule, and made it happen. And the folks up at Parabellum were very grateful for that, because the players were very grateful for that, and so they handed me this guy, which is the Mountain Stands. This is a Founder's Resin kit. There's, what is it, sequentially numbered edition of 400 pieces. So thick boys here are quite nice. I'm very excited about this guy. Of course, I'm kind of moving away from my Dweg home. I straight up asked, I was like, hey, do you guys have like the founders for Nords or Wadroon? They said no. I was like, okay, well, you know, I still appreciate this. I mean, it certainly, even if I don't want it, has a monetary reward. So I don't know. It was a really thoughtful model, and it's very sweet, just for helping out. Give you a foreshadow. I kind of use this as a marker in this video as a reminder to do the Conquest video. The tournament went on for a total of 6 rounds. I was able to play in 5 of them. I'll explain why in that video. But essentially, I had an awesome time. Every single opponent was fantastic. Everyone was so nice. Yeah, couldn't praise it enough. Now, what would a trip to any kind of gaming convention be without bunches of swag? I'm just going to briefly go through these because some of these have a lot more value than others. And not in value in terms of the companies, but like things that I want to talk about. So I got some great gifts. There's a little token for objectives from Adepticon. A gaming group gave me one of their personal measuring gauges. It unfortunately doesn't have their name on it, but if this is part of your group, please tell me what the name is. I would love it. I have met like 1,000 people. People were handing me stuff, and I'm like, oh man. Gray Matter Gaming is a wonderful site where you can get some sweet looking mats and movement stuff. Highly recommend. Their owner actually reached out to me a long time ago and was asking questions, and he says I helped him and gave him confidence, although I don't feel like I really did much to encourage him. So go check those out. And that is, like I said, Gray Matter Gaming. Very cool folks here in the US. Black Site Studios, a funny story. I include this because after I had already talked about Yafsiga and I was very interested, I went to ask them, like, hey, do you guys do like online marketing or, basically the business side of 2+ stuff rather than the content side? And the entire time I was there, every single table had these, and they were really trying to push them on people, like, hey, take a measuring thing, hey, take a widget, hey, take this. And at the end, I was like, nah, I'm good. I got a whole bunch. I'm good. And at the end, they got me because I was like, do you guys have anything for marketing? And like, oh yeah, let me hand you a business card. And he finally got me to take. It was good. It was a chuckle. I was like, that was smooth. I have my actual badge here. This is from Tectonic Craft Studios. I love these things. I got one for the year Adepticon didn't happen. It says Adepticant on it. I just always take every opportunity to support my buddy Dan with Tectonic Craft Studios. Truly awesome. And these work out perfectly because of the way that they sit over the official Adepticon badge. Makes them look shiny and unique, and they act as a cool little memorabilia thing for the year that you went. The last thing, and this is also with Tectonic Crafts, I want to throw out here, is Dan was kind enough in the last minute, the last final hour before the event, to come up and design my some swag for the Youngbloods. And so I didn't know he was going to go this far, but I had asked him to make little 3-inch widgets, and he ended up making both of these, but we were able to create enough to give to all of the kids, and I had a couple left over. So thank you so much, Dan. The kids absolutely loved them. I have to understand, when we did the Youngbloods thing, not all of them are very well like introduced to Age of Sigmar, so stuff like they might know that their Stormcasts come outside of 9, but they might not know that everyone's crap, generally speaking, comes within 9, comes out the 9-inch mark. So as we were explaining this to the kids, like, hey, we have a whole bunch of these things as your guys are coming in, just lay this down. And their eyes were opening because they were realizing how, quite frankly, how nice widgets are compared to just tape measure for everything. And they had a great time. So thank you so much, Dan. I'm going to do a dedicated video about the Youngbloods. It's kind of hard because I don't want to show any pictures of the kids online because internet and COPPA, but there's much to talk about because it honestly ended up being one of the most meaningful hobby experiences of my personal life, and I want to do it forever until the day I die. So I'm very excited about Youngbloods. Next thing to chat about, this is again another placeholder. This is an expansion for Relicblade. Relicblade is something that's been kind of in my hobby sphere for a long time, but I haven't jumped in myself. I was able to play a little bit of the first edition of it when it first came out back in Seattle. There was a group, and I did enjoy it. I know he came out with another edition. This is Sean Stutter. They do all kinds of awesome artwork, or he does all kinds of awesome artwork. It's not nearly as much of a team activity. This is like the truest sense of indie games, and all of his stuff is just the highest possible quality. When I went there to the booth, I was actually going to grab the core rulebook, and he was sold out of them, and I was overjoyed. I'm like, you're telling me you came here to sell one game and you sold out of that game? That's baller. Like, congrats, dude. I was so stoked for him, but I wanted to support him in some way because I love indie games, and certainly skirmish games for sure. So I picked this up, and then he gave me a code to order no shipping for the actual rulebook, which should be on its way here pretty soon. So I cannot wait. Thank you, Sean Sutter, for hanging out with me and just chatting about your game. Let me know in the comments if you want to know more about this, Yafsiga, Carnivale, whatever it is. I'm really into, quite frankly, non-GW skirmish games right now because army stuff is just so cumbersome. So we'll move on from there. Speaking of army games that are addressing the cumbersome issue, this is Hobgoblin. Okay, this is sort of their quick start, almost alpha rule set. Think of it as one-page rules that is all about creating the coolest rank and flank game ever. When I say rank and flank, I mean like Conquest has the square bases or whatever. This is that kind of thing. If you have a fantasy battles, Kings of War army, Conquest, to some extent, although the bases are a little bit different, you can make something for them. Now, essentially what you do is you start with keywords. Everything has a points value, and you basically just look at the models that you want to create. So in this example, let's say I hit him on a square base. I want to create a chieftain. Well, I'm going to look, and I'm going to say, okay, well, he's an infantry-sized thing. I'm going to pick keywords that basically articulate what this model is, and then I'm going to total his points cost. That's how much he costs. And I can add or subtract things if I want. It's meant to basically abbreviate army books and rules and that kind of stuff to make it to where you can sit down with the models you like, craft the faction of your dreams, and hit the ground running. Now, it gives you a whole bunch of common keywords here just to give you, like, this is meant to let you play through like a demo, but there will be an expansive list, and you can see all the different qualities of the different types of units and stuff like that. So it's very cool. I am actually going to be working alongside these guys. Greg Horton is who I spoke to at Adepticon, and he is with Electric Studios. They do a lot of the publications like Blaster Magazine. Again, more indie game content that I'm excited about. But the game itself is actually by Mike Hutchinson, who you might know from Gaslands. That is the car combat game. So the idea of taking a car combat mentality and then applying it to rank and flank miniatures sounds awesome. I was into it. So this one hasn't quite launched yet. It will be soon, and I've already told them I want to be a part of it. So look forward to that. Next up is War Gods. This is probably one of the coolest visually looking games that I saw. It is also on rank and flank. It feels like some of the classic rank and flank army games that came out when Fantasy Battles had like stiffer competition, and I'm talking like, I don't know, 90s, early thousands, maybe that kind of era. But if you look at it, it just appeals to an immense amount of nostalgia. And what caught me, and this is the book I wanted to say, they did give me this for free just to talk about and then explore, and I will be doing it. It's a whole game system. But here's what caught my eye about it. Okay, I'll do this. Actual glare doesn't kill everyone and blind them. So War Gods is the game system. It's the game engine. Okay, this book is Egyptus here at the bottom. This means that all of the factions and stuff like that are themed around Egyptian army. Everything, Horus and Isis and all those different sun gods. There's croc people, which is what made me stop, and I have an anecdote about that. But again, it's a whole game system with all the army books combined. And what's cool is the thing that they just published is War Gods Olympus. So it's the same game engine. They're completely compatible, but that one has all of the Greek-themed deities and their subsequent army. This is incredible because it essentially lets you play, Age of Mythology, with all of the crazy Anubis dogmen attacking, Poseidon seahorse cavalry, all these crazy things. I thought it was a cool idea for a game system, so I'm going to be exploring it. I don't have a review for you right now, but it looked very impressive, the way that they put it together. And initially, the gentleman behind the counter was a fan of the channel. Hey buddy, what's up? And he was like handing me the Olympus one because it's the newest thing. He wanted me to chat about it on the channel. And I was like, oh cool, War Gods. I like the idea of, core game systems having multiple themes and they all work. That's really neat. And then I walked past the display table and I saw their Crocman warband, which is like, I don't know if I can find a picture of it here. Yeah, this boy, the beloved of Sobek. They have a whole faction of them, and they looked so astounding that I turned right around, went back to him, and I said, I have changed my mind, my friend. Threw down the Olympus book because nothing was grabbing me, and I picked up this, and I was like, Croc people are in here? He's like, Yeah, actually, Croc people have been dominant this year because apparently they brought a table for demos that had water on it, and like everyone takes penalties except for Croc people, or rather they can be attacked by crocodiles when they're in the water. Croc people, or is how it pans. If you're interested in this, please let me know. I'm going to be covering it regardless because they gave it to me as a gift and I always want to point out other games, but it seems particularly awesome if you're into that nostalgia type thing. I was given information about a game called Heavy Gear Blitz, which is a skirmish game. It feels like more of a skirmish game version of Battletech. I understand that they have history, like there was some licensing that happened with, was it Battletech back in the day, where Heavy Gear Blitz was like a game series, I think. They were trying to explain it to me, but there's so much history with the intellectual property between Battletech and Macross and all those things that like my eyes just kind of glaze over. Truthfully, I got to play a demo of it. I had a great time. It was a very cool game, and I'm in talks with their lore master, the guy writing their campaign books. They are coming out with a new edition here pretty soon, and he gave me these in case I just wanted to do painting tutorials or something like that. So thank you there. There's a lot of lore for the various backgrounds. You know, if you know about the divide between Heavy Gear Blitz and like say Battletech, Macross, whatever, please let me know in the comments, like if you could articulate that a little better. They were trying to explain it to me. Like I said, my eyes crossed, but also the vendor hall, if you were there, is deafeningly loud. So trying to get the nuance of an intellectual property discussion is a bit difficult. One of the things they were just handing out on the last day was this guy. This is Pirates of Skydock for Starfinder. It's like a self-contained board game. Seems rad. I don't know anything about it, but they handed it to me and I was like, neat. Now, one thing that's a bit awkward to show, I'm going to do a deeper thing when I talk about Carnival. This is a massive tub of MDF risers. Now, I talked about Carnival quite a bit on this channel, at least starting to, and it's basically a whole bunch of these things in different shapes and configurations. The idea for Carnival, if you don't know, is you're playing on the waterways of Venice, okay, the canals. So you get these things, and then you can put buildings on top of them, and you get a water mat, which is exactly what I did. It just came in the mail. It's not Adepticon relevant, so I won't show it here. But TT Combat had their American distributor booth there, and so I got a whole bunch of these things so I can start doing tutorials, battle reports, that kind of stuff for Carnival. In addition, I just want to throw out, I had 4 people approach me, very sweet fans of the channel, who tried the Carnival demo when they were doing it there, specifically at my suggestion. They were like, you know, Doug mentioned it, there's a lot of games to take in, so if you're going to prioritize, the ones you kind of have suggestions or nudges towards are the ones you try. Makes perfect sense. I did the exact same thing. And all 4 of them came up to me and said they had an absolute blast. The parkour mechanics of you rushing across the rooftops and things and drowning people and Cthulhu monsters coming up from the bottom. It's so much fun. I highly recommend. It is, to me, the single best miniatures game on the market right now in terms of hobby value, amount of fun you can have straight out of the box. Nothing beats. Now, things that I'm going to do dedicated videos on. The Conquest event, it was a lot of fun. There were a ton of growing pains. It is just, you know, companies don't start knowing how to run large events. Just throw that out there. That's the thesis statement. But it was a wonderful time to teach and to learn and to have a wonderful experience with a lot of very fun gameplay experts. And then also the Youngbloods thing, like I said, I had an immensely wonderful time. I cannot wait to talk about that in more in depth. And overall, it was just incredibly humbling and fun to meet as many of you as I could at Adepticon. I found out later that, like, I kept looking around and I'm like, I'm running the Youngbloods thing, right? And I see the teams doubles event, which I can't express how much fun it looked like they were having. I loved it. But I'm looking at them, I'm like, where's the rest of the Age of Sigmar stuff? Like, and not just them, but like the 40K thing, that's all the friendly. Apparently, like, they were above me the entire weekend and I just never went up and saw. So if I missed you, I'm so sorry. I didn't even know where the AOS singles or the 40K singles were. I basically bounced from my little corner of where the AOS doubles were, team doubles I should say, to upstairs. I did go to the Horus Heresy, but I never really went down that other hallway. So apologies if I missed you. I had a wonderful time. Cannot wait for next, for real. Anyway, if any of the content or stuff that I unpacked here seems interesting to you, please let me know. It helps me prioritize the videos I'm going to be making now that I'm back at it. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me and watching this, and I'll catch you next time. Happy wargaming.